BM59E, let's do it. So we finally finished the BM59 project, and I'm pretty excited. This has been a long time kind of in the making, and I just want to go over a couple of things for those of you that might be interested in piecing one of these together for yourself. I'm over at my buddy's house returning this to him, unfortunately. So you may notice I'm not in the usual shooting location. However, I figured that his little Italian section here wasn't a bad place to do the filming for this. That being said, let's go over some of the details, the highlights, the pitfalls, and the fun of assembling a parts kit. So as you can see here, this isn't the typical BM59. This is what they're calling the E variant, or essentially it's the one that is most like an M1 Garand. It doesn't have the tri-comp muzzle brake, it just has this smaller version here. So as I said before, this was a amalgamation of a parts kit from Sarco, as well as a brand new receiver from the James River Armory. So you know there's bound to be a couple of issues when you take something that's brand new and try and mate it with something that's been well used. In this case, of course, we have the brand new receiver and we have the parts kit from Sarco. So let me go over a couple of those pieces, and let's get in a couple details about each of those. Let's start off with the Sarco kit. I'm going to start with the issues that I have with these kits. We had purchased two of the kits, number one being just the essentials kit, and the second being the everything included except for the receiver. Now that does count a barrel and a magazine. While we're on the magazine, we received two magazines, one with each kit. One of them was bent beyond usage at this time, which is remarkable because these mags are just absolutely amazing and overbuilt and extremely robust. I can't believe that anything happened to it, but essentially what happened was the right side of the feed lips was bent inward and it was preventing the bolt from going forward. Now in some of the original conversions of these, they would just grind off those feed lips so that a non-modified bolt could just go forward. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to do some work and see if we can't just bend that back into shape. So back to the Sarco kit. Right away, I was missing a couple pieces. One, the gas cylinder was missing from the full kit. I was also missing the safety and a couple other little pieces. There's quite a few Beretta specific parts, which is nice, but I was really hoping to see more Beretta manufactured parts. There was quite a few USGI parts, which is fine, that's great, but there was, when it comes to the smaller bands and some of the pieces, unfortunately, including the hammer and the safety, they were new manufactured parts, and the quality on those just didn't inspire confidence, I'll say. So we swapped those out and just used USGI components, and I'm feeling a lot better about that. So I did reach out to Sarco, and after a little bit of back and forth, they did see that we did purchase the full kit, blah, 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 and they sent those parts out to us. I did not bother them with the magazine issue. It just comes down to what's your time worth, and for me, I should hopefully be able to fix that rather than more back and forth with them. So anyway, that's the parts kit. Everything was well used, but not abused. The barrels were really nice barrels. The bolts in good shape. They all head spaced just fine, and same with the gas cylinders. They spec'd out really well. So I'm glad to see that. Now the top handguard is an original for the BM59s. You can see it slightly doesn't match. It has a little bit of worn in finish there. But when it comes to the forward handguard and the buttstock itself, those are new manufacturers, and you know, they look like it. So it's pretty nice, honestly. I've seen a lot of other people get the mix, both a new stock and a worn Italian stock, and I think that worn Italian stock would have looked a lot better on here. But for both of the kits, they were both the new manufactured stocks, so that's what we went with. Now on to James River and their receivers. So this is my first dealing with anyone at James River Armory or any of their products. And I'll just say that all of the communication I had with them was excellent. Anyone who answered the phone was more than happy to tell me about their experiences and some of the pitfalls to watch out for when assembling. Of course, they recommended that I just send in my barrel and the bolt to be fit and headspaced with them, which is what we did. And they had that all back to us within a week, which is pretty nice. So we were able to get started on this almost right away. The finish on this is really good. The fit is also really good. I did run into one slight issue, and that is in the left side of the bolt channel here. It was not consistent inside, so when the bolt travels forward and backwards, it does a little bump and it misses. It kind of gets knocked, not totally out of alignment, but just bumped into where it rides and it isn't completely smooth. So that was an issue that was relatively simple to fix. I just took a Arkansas stone and was able to get in there and polish that out, and it's working fine right now. And once the finish came off in that channel, you can see there are two locations where the surface wasn't completely flat, and that's where the resistance came in with the bolt. Would I have liked to see that perfectly flat and flush? Sure. But this is the first run of their second generation receivers, so things like that are bound to happen. Also, there could be an issue in there that they did this on purpose that I'm not aware of. So, you know, I'm no expert, but I know that I was able to fix that with relative ease, and it's really smooth now at this point. Now, of course, we have a lot of choices in this world when it comes to products, but currently they're the only ones with this receiver. But everyone I spoke to was more than happy to share their information and some of the things to look out for when assembling one of these. The whole thing was pretty simple. We did try a couple bolts and a couple op rods to see which ones would be best, and there wasn't any need for any other modifications or polishing or anything along those lines, which is a good sign. Now again, I've figured a lot of these parts might be a little bit out of spec, but to Sarco's credit, I'm glad that they were not, and they all seem to be working well so far. Out of the two parts kits, we received two modified USGI bolts, and those seem to work just fine. Of course, we put on a post-war USGI sling, and that green canvas just looks really nice. I'm excited about the overall look of this. Of course, the stocks don't quite match up, but that can be fixed, or it can just be left alone. I kind of like the rough and tumble look of this thing overall, and again, it feels nice, and it came together really well, and most importantly, it shoots nice. This thing is a lot of fun, and I can see why people think that these are some of the softest, most comfortable shooting 308s out there, and I would tend to agree. All right, I'd like to share a couple tools that I used that made this process quite a bit smoother in case it helps out some of you guys. First of all, a bolt assembly tool is, for me, just essential. Makes it so much easier. Just pop it in, lock it down, punch out the extractor, and there you go. That's it. You don't have to worry about with messing around and, you know, getting it in a vise and that whole thing, because it's essentially a mini vise. I use this one by Matrix Precision. I like the finish on here, and the quality seems to be pretty good from what I've used so far. I have a couple of their other tools for the M1 carbine, and I like those. So what I like about this tool in particular is that there's a space for 308, which we used for the BM59, as well as the M1 Garand in 30-06. So it's pretty versatile, which is really nice. Now, of course, I don't receive anything from these companies. These are all tools that I've purchased with my own money and did not receive for free or any of that kind of stuff. Secondly, I always use one of these trigger guard poppers. It makes it so much easier, especially on this model. Bang. If you have something that's a little sticky or just not, doesn't want to move, needs a little persuasion, this is really helpful, and probably about 20 bucks. $10. This is from ammogarand.com, but you can find more out there. Now, one of the tools that I did not have currently on my workbench was a gas cylinder gauge, and the one that I wanted was from CMP, and they don't have those in stock anymore, and there's some others out there, blah, 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 that are like $70, and I didn't want to go that route. So I found this gentleman on eBay, and he has a 3-piece set with a minimum and a reject and an in-between gauge, and this worked really well. And so, of course, all of these you can use on an M1 Garand as well. This tool itself was about $30. It's really not a single tool, but it's 3 pieces. Anyway, it's pretty nice, and they're laser engraved on here, so you can see the minimum is 0.528, and the reject is 0.532. So that's a pretty nice little set there for the money. Now, other accessories. This is an Italian-made BM59 bayonet. However, as we will see, this does not fit the E version because it is made the overall length to connect to one with the tri-compensator, which is much longer than this version of the comp, which is about 3/4 or almost even half the size. So I think the only bayonet that will fit this version is a modified ring of the M1 bayonets. Still looking for one of those. All right, well, you knew it was coming. Here we go. Let's take a look at some reference materials. On the 59, I didn't find too much out there, as it is sort of a strange little sub-variant, but anyway, there were a couple of pieces that were available. This is available free from the National Archives. This is the original Beretta 7.62 NATO manual for the 59, and it shows all of the parts, including the selector switch, as well as the stripper clip guide, and grenade launcher, the bipod, and all those things from the many different versions of this, and just a nice little free reference material. It's also in Italian, German, and a couple other languages, which could be helpful to some of you. So overall, definitely it's worth the paper that it's printed on. Up next is this BM59 Do Everything Manual, Disassembly, Assembly, Lubrication, Maintenance, Ammunition, and Storage. This was 10 bucks, and it pretty much does the same thing, but it shows you a little bit different detail. What's interesting about this one is it discusses the BM59 SL also known as the simplified model, which seems to be the closest to this E variant, minus that front comp, which was probably what most of the original converts from the M1 Garands would have been. But this is nice. It shows you quite a few of the different models, and anyway, just another good reference material to have if you're interested. Now, if you really want to get into the details and the math involved, if you're trying to make a competition rifle, or you just want to be as specific and detailed as possible, nothing beats the US caliber 30 gas-operated service rifles from Jerry Kuhnhausen. Of course, this is specific to the M1 Garand as well as the M14, but most of this information will apply to the BM59s as well. There was a couple of pieces that I needed to fit with the handguards, and I wanted to make sure that I got that right before having to come back in there and redo some of that. So I've mentioned this one and Jerry's books before, but these are absolutely worth the $20 to $30, and they work even when the internet doesn't. All right, so let's talk about cost. First of all, let's start with the Sarco parts kits. They have two kits. One is the full kit with everything that you would need for the build, minus the receiver. So it includes the magazine, the barrel, stock set, and every single other part. They also have just the essentials kit, which is everything specific to the BM59. And the rest of the parts you can source are just M1 Garand parts. Now, we did purchase this when it was on sale, and I'll have to cheat a little bit from my notes, but for the essentials only kit was $288 shipped, which is not bad. The current price listed on those is $370. So now for the full kit, it was on sale, and the sale time was around the new year. The full kit was on sale for $410, and their current price listing is $495. So, in my opinion, are the current prices for those kits worth it? I'd say this. I wouldn't buy one. Not as advice to someone, just me personally. The $500 for the kit probably isn't going to be worth it for me, but that's because I have other priorities in my sporting budget, so that's going to be a no from me. If you can get them on sale, I think that's much easier pill to swallow, especially with the repo parts. Now, if these were all USGI parts or Beretta parts, I probably wouldn't hesitate to spend that current price, but I can't see myself purchasing these kits at full price with the repo parts. Now that brings us to the Gen 2 receiver from James River Armory. Now these retail for, I think, $895. I spoke to someone, we sent it in, had the barrel fit and the bolt head spaced, and shipped back to me, actually shipped back to the owner, and the total on that was $935. So for the receiver, barrel fitment, and bolt head spacing, with shipping was $935. So I think that was very reasonable. I'm really happy with the quality and condition of these receivers. As I said, it's my first interaction with anyone or anything from James River Armory, and I would have no doubt that if there was an issue that I contacted them about, that they would do the right thing and take care of that. So James River actually reached out to me, and I had posed the question, why did they not include the stripper clip guide? And they had told me that that was just a choice they made since some of the original, well, not some, but the original versions were just converted M1 Garands, and that they wanted to kind of stick to the original design, which I think is fair enough. I still personally would have liked to see it, but there is room that this can be cut and you can have one installed in there. We might go ahead and do that sometime in the future. Actually, it makes me want to look into some of their stuff in the future. Speaking of, I believe they have a couple of pre-builds on their website. So if you go over there and take a look at that, if you don't want to mess with this whole thing yourself, doing some adult Legos, then they do have some available for sale. I'm not sure about prices for those, but to me, some of the most fun is doing it yourself, putting it together, and learning along the way. Now, it's not for everyone, so again, if you want to purchase a complete one, they have many different versions available there, and those look to be in nice condition. So, overall, my thoughts on this are, I am excited to go out and blast off with this thing. I hate that I'm here and I have to give this back. Honestly. Can I just keep this? Like, you know, we trade some services. Seriously. Now we're going to get out and do another shooting video on this, and that's going to be a lot of fun. We just got in an ammo shipment, so we're all ready to go in that department. But I wanted to give you my final thoughts on the parts kit from Sarco and the Gen 2 receiver from James River Armory, and the assembly of the BM59, what is called the E version. So, as always, I appreciate you watching. Until next time, keep your fingers off the trigger, and we'll see you later. What's with the mannequin, dude? I mean the jean shorts? What? That's all you...